Hello again and welcome. Last episode, I spoke with COO and Chief Learning Strategist Susan Minaya on the tools learning strategists can develop to help their process. Moving on, in this episode, we'll hear what a successful learning strategy looks like from Susan's perspective as a senior learning strategist. Stay tuned to learn more. Now, this is going to be a very generic question, but I feel like there is something that still could be said about it. And there's two standpoints for it, actually. So now, what makes a successful learning strategy? And that sounds like a very generic question and maybe a very broad one, but I'd want to hear it from, the learning strategist standpoint, what made it successful? And then from a client standpoint, from their view, from your experience at least, what makes a successful learning strategy?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question because you know why? Strategies often end up in a binder on the shelf because for whatever reason, people didn't communicate it well. It's so aggressive that nobody even knows where to start. I think a successful learning strategy is one that people can look at and say, I can do this, So when I work with clients, many times I could think of a lot of things to put in there, but does it all need to be in there? So you can overwhelm people where they're paralyzed and don't know where to go. So I do think it's essential to really distill it down to what's essential for them to be successful. And then we go back to that implementation plan, and timeline that really lays out how you're going to get the work done. And I think that is so helpful. And clients tell me all the time, oh, thank goodness, because we looked at all the data and we walked through it and there's a ton that you said and people told us things and some of it was hurtful to hear, but that's the way it is and we know we have to fix it. And you have a lot of recommendations and how much they appreciate it being staged out in that implementation plan because they do feel empowered that we can do this and we see how to do it. So we have a pathway to get it done. I think sometimes strategies are successful when you have buy-in from the top. And so as a strategist, I always talk to executives in the organization because I want them to know what's going on, even if it's someone lower level in the organization, because you need that support, right? Because that's where the budget funding is going to come through from and things like that. I've done strategies before for learning leaders at all levels that was just a beautiful strategy and it was absolutely executable and doable. But then the organization completely changed once the strategy was done. But I think as a learning strategist, sometimes when you do the strategy work for clients and then they say, fine, we'll take it from here, they don't always do that. So you really have to make sure that as a strategist, you're helping them understand the work, that they're clear on what they have to do. And that's why you do that iterative validation along the way so that they're understanding it.
It almost seems like it would be very helpful to always have the strategy, but then have a distilled version of it information-wise to be like, look, here's A, B, C, and D. Don't worry about all the little in-between for right now. Just make sure this is the goal. This is how we get there. Okay, now here's all the details of each process.
Yeah, otherwise it's overwhelming, And I guess I would say too, for me, a strategy for me, what's successful is when the clients that I do the strategy work for are comfortable to take it forward. They want to be the one to present it. So when I deliver a final strategy, I have some clients that want me to do all the presentation of the strategy and this is the work. But my preference is really that the learning leaders that I'm helping support in the effort are the ones that deliver it because I prefer to be the invisible hand in the background and because it's their work and I want them to take it forward and have ownership of that strategy. And so again, that goes back to why you have those validations as you go along. So they're learning about the discovery, even though they may not be doing the work, they're invested in it and they understand it as it's getting created instead of trying to learn it all at the end.
Well, again, thank you, Susan, for sharing your insights on what goes into a successful learning strategy. This wraps up our 5-minute university series on learning strategy. However, this topic will appear again in more depth in the future, so be on the lookout. Also, be sure to stay tuned for our next 5-minute university topic and discussion. Thank you for listening in, and we hope you gain some insights. Until next time.